It's Monday, August 17. Good afternoon, I'm Herman Green with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching online at onespotmedia.com. The mayor of Port Maria, Richard Creary, has tested positive for COVID-19. Mr. Creary issued a confirmation on Monday saying he started to have signs and symptoms last week. He then decided to self-quarantine. He says contact was made with the Ministry of Health and a coronavirus sample was taken for testing, which came back positive. Mr. Creary says he has been in isolation at home since and has been cooperating fully with the health department. He says he's looking forward to a full recovery. The Port Maria mayor is urging residents to take the necessary precautions to protect themselves, their families, and by extension, the general public. The PNP is eyeing the Western St. Mary's seat held by Jamaica Labour Party JLP chairman Robert Montague. It comes following assertions that the PNP's candidate, Dr. Jason Stanford, has an edge over the longtime MP, and we will have more on that story in just a minute. Now, JLP Deputy Leader Desmond McKenzie is condemning the use of government property for campaigning. His condemnation comes after a video circulating showed a private vehicle bearing a Social Development Commission logo taking part in a campaign activity for the PNP in St. Andrew West Rural earlier this month.
A video was circulated showing a vehicle with the SDC logo on it, announcing a message from some candidate who is seeking recognition. The vehicle is not owned by the SDC. It was contracted to do some work during COVID.
Mrs. Juliet Cuthbert Flynn, who is the Member of Parliament for the area, allegedly used her vehicle to block the path of the other vehicle. The matter was reported to the political ombudsman by PNP caretaker Crystal Tomlinson. However, Mr. McKenzie argues that the report did not address the real issue at hand.
The report did not look at the basis for the MP's intervention. Because that is not what matters. I condemn the use of the SDC logo. And I have said to the SDC, to the executive director, and it has gone out, nobody that is employed in government must use government vehicle, marked vehicle, to be campaigning with.
Now, both Cuthbert Flynn and Tomlinson will be contesting for the seat in the September 3 general election. And with 16 days to go before the general election, a call is being made for the Jamaica Labour Party and the People's National Party to release their manifestos. The issue was raised yesterday by public commentator Clive Monroe Jr., who was a guest on Radio Jamaica's weekly news review program, That's a Wrap. Mr. Monroe said it is important for the electorate to be given adequate time to peruse the manifestos.
If I had to guess, I think the impact of that 1.5 proposal in the last election has led the two parties into a kind of political rope-a-dope, trying to see who can get the last lick on the other. The problem with that is that the electorate suffers because you can't now make an informed decision based on what is before you. So instead, what do you look for? Who bombards me more on social media? Who do I know as a public personality or persona? Instead of saying, who is it that can address the issues that are burning for me?
On Friday, the Jamaica Labour Party said it was finalizing the schedule for its release of its manifesto. The People's National Party says it will indicate this week when its manifesto will be made public. The issue of stigma, which has been impacting residents from communities under quarantine, continues to be a challenge in the Health Ministry's fight for against COVID-19. Now, Krista Campbell has been talking with residents in St. Thomas quarantine zone.
I do the test 2 times and I know I'm not positive and I don't have a corona. That declaration from Church Corner resident Angeline Morgan because of what has become a common complaint from persons under quarantine, the issue of stigma. And for those in the 3 St. Thomas communities of Church Corner, Summit and Bamboo River, even members of the security forces are guilty.
Can't even come out for even buy. Somebody have come to drop off something for me and them have to put it on the ground and me pick it up like me a dog puppy. Because the soldier them tell me say, me have corona, so me can't stretch nothing give nobody and nobody can't stretch nothing give me. Now me feel really bad because me not prisoner. Me can't even go to shop. Me sit down outside my gate, they tell me say me have to go inside because me I go attract pass by.
Going out in the quarantine zone on the 3 allotted shopping days per week is another reason to feel bad.
Might be people that must call me like I go church can alone have corona. We got MoneyGram, from we have a church kind of address, then send me out, so they're not doing no business with church kind of people.
We went to MoneyGram to get a response about her claims, only to find this notice. However, Ms. Morgan says the discrimination doesn't stop there.
Some of the taxis then, some we take with some don't. So me not have to take them taxi, because you say after this pandemic over, enough of them have to talk to me, because who has called me now, then can't bother talk to me after. So me I call my rum cream, now the soldier ask me what me I do with rum cream in my hand. So me never know, so me must drink neither.
President of the Eastern St. Thomas Taxi Association, Kirk Brown, admits that residents from the quarantined communities are being stigmatized, but says he's been doing what he can to discourage it.
We encourage them, look, we did not cause corona. Anybody can catch corona. So we do not want to discriminate of anyone. So we had a zero tolerance on that, and we have understanding where that's concerned.
We put the stigma complaints to Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton.
I think the responsibilities that they have are of such that one could feel restricted, because that's what it's all about. I hope that's not what is being interpreted as stigma. I've been there and I've seen them at work, and I think they have acted very professionally.
However, he says residents should report any incident of discrimination to members of the health team in the quarantine zone. Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
And we now take a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, continuing the news. National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang says private security guards will be called upon to monitor and ensure that persons are following the COVID-19 protocols. Speaking in St. James recently, Dr. Chang announced that his ministry will also be increasing the number of private security guards in the island to carry out these functions. Shamela Pullen reports.
Approximately 24,000 security personnel are registered with the Private Security Regulation Authorities, PSRA. But speaking at the opening of PSRA office in Montego Bay, St. James recently, National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang says this is not enough, and so his ministry is currently looking to see how they can increase that number. Dr. Chang says the primary aim is to have these security guards playing a greater role assisting and ensuring that COVID-19 protocols are maintained at private institutions.
You don't necessarily need a trained police officer to be everywhere monitoring who's wearing masks, who is maintaining social distance. And certainly we can begin to look at how we can engage elements of the security guard system to work with us to ensure we maintain the protocol. It is critical we maintain the protocols, control the spread of COVID-19 until the science reaches up, find a cure or vaccine or both.
And even with the implementation of a COVID-19 resilience corridor, Dr. Chang said that this type of security service is critical, and so the government has been paying close attention to improve in this area.
We have been investing in it, both in the public sector and the sector which we are here today to ensure we have quality professionals, ensuring that the law is maintained and there's public safety, which provides the surest foundation for sustainable economic development.
Dr. Chang says as the country continues to record a spike in COVID-19 cases, he's reminding Jamaicans that the pandemic still poses a major risk to the society and the economy, and as such, they need to adhere to the measures outlined by the Health Ministry.
We need to work to ensure we can manage and control the effect. All the protocols being put in place to observe, And therefore, in that process, we may be calling on security guards to do some more work in terms of what happens in the maintenance of the protocols. As we proceed, in fact, especially in the North Coast, where we have opened the corridor.
Shamela Pullen, TVJ News.
Now back to a story we started earlier where the PNP says it's eyeing the Western St. Mary's seat held by Jamaica Labour Party Chairman Robert Montague. It comes following assertions that the PNP candidate, Dr. Jason Stanford, has an edge over the longtime MP. O'Shane Masters has the story.
As things get into high gear for the general election, which is 16 days away, the People's National Party is looking to make some inroads in the St. Mary Western constituency. That seat went to the JLP's Robert Montague in the 2007 general election after securing 9,022 votes to the PNP's Delano Franklin 8,255. However, 4 years later, it was the PNP's Joyanne Silveira who won the seat by 227 votes, 9,693 to 9,466. But it was back into the fold of a JLP in 2016. But MP caretaker Dr. Jason Stanford is positive that he can reclaim that seat for the PNP when the country goes to the polls on September 3.
The generation that we are coming with as a new leaders politically coming to the forefront is one that the kind of political leadership that brought us here is not going to take us there to the next phase.
The people of Western St. Mary know of my work and worth. They already once took a chance with inexperience and it didn't work out. 4 years there was no activity. They have seen what I've done and they know my plans.
The PNP candidate says chief among his plans for the constituency is infrastructure development such as road improvement, internet connection, among others.
In addition to the infrastructure, we are looking at skills training and job opportunities. When we look at Western St. Mary, in some of the divisions, for example, the Cairnhall division, you're looking at unemployment rate that's approaching 50%.
But for Mr. Montague, some deals have already been inked to have those needs addressed.
We worked on the mini stadium in Arokabesa. We have just received the $24 million from Sports Development Foundation. We have brought water into Hamilton Mountain by doing a $25 million project. We are doing a $50 million project in the Eden Park housing scheme to lay pipes and to bring water to those. We have just signed off a couple months ago on the $863 million Mason Hall water supply that the people in Mason Hall, Desmond, Canopy, Kidland, Grandstone.
Despite the work of Mr. Montague in the Western St. Mary constituency, Dr. Stanford says he's not perturbed. In 2016, Mr. Montague polled 11,710 votes to Mr. Silveira's 8,234, a difference of 3,476 votes. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
No road, no vote. It's a promise residents of Richmond Vale in St. Thomas are warning they'll keep if the road leading to their community isn't fixed before the upcoming general election. More from K.N. Morgan.
This is the main road residents of Richmond Vale in St. Thomas used to get in and out of the community. Not only is it an eyesore, they say, but a nuisance. And they've had enough. They say the pothole-ridden road hampers their daily commute.
Last time I come here for dash my dinner because me live up there, so. And me have a step in the big hole. Look for the hole, look for the hole. All kind of things, look here what I want. You know, go work.
Then do part of the road and then stop and left the other part with BML and it's seeking out people. People have signals and those things. It's dealing terrible things around here. The peripheral road them fix so pretty and the main road is stay away like a riverbed, may I tell you about.
Then left from patrol stage to pool stage to riverbed.
The residents say it is costing them.
Every Saturday, I have to pay $1,000 per Richmond. For any taxi if we come and me get, we want justice.
Enough of we up here are hustling people to have money. Some people go a bush just to have money. I tell myself if you go buy 2 local bag of grocery, you have to pay $1,000 all because of the condition of the road.
Taxi drivers too.
Every week I have to under my car. And such as like other taxi men up the road here and down the road here. There's only a few of us. We would carry people come up this direction.
And with the general election due in a few weeks, the residents gave this ultimatum.
We need road for walk on. If we not get the road,
We not vote for nobody.
Kayan Morgan, TVJ News.
Work on the Ramble Bridge in Bushy Park, St. Thomas is now complete. While one side of the structure was in good condition, the other side had broken boards that were lifting. Concerned residents had called on local authorities to fix the bridge. That call has been answered. One resident is expressing thanks.
I really and truly appreciate it. It's mean a lot to me, and I guess it means a lot to the wider community as well. And I'd like to thank the working team and the working staff who has put this together. However, there's something else needed to be done. The end of the bridge, the metal part of it is actually rotting. That also needs to be dealt with as well too.
The issue of guns pouring into Jamaica from the United States continues to be a sore point between the two countries. While Jamaican authorities report that hundreds of illegal weapons are sent here illegally, the U.S. is suggesting that the report may be inflated and that Jamaica needs to cooperate if the problem is to be fixed. The U.S. ambassador to Jamaica was answering questions from reporters recently.
80% of murders committed in 2019 was done by the gun. Since Jamaica does not make guns, it's believed that most of these firearms are imported illegally, mostly from the United States. But according to the U.S. ambassador to Jamaica, Donald Tapia, that is not totally correct.
There are other countries that are actually securing guns in the U.S. because they're U.S. guns, and they're transporting them to their country, and they're actually coming into Jamaica in more of a 10, 15, 20 guns at a time versus what's coming in from the U.S. I'm not saying that you do not have some of those guns coming in barrels, with 10 or 15, but the majority are coming through is coming actually out of another country.
He, however, acknowledges that they may all be American-made guns. The call over the years locally has been for the U.S. to play a greater role in stopping the export of firearms. But Mr. Tapia is countering that, insisting that the U.S. is ready to help. He says the serial number for guns used in crimes can be backtracked to persons in the U.S.
The Jamaican government has to give us that information so that we can then trace where that gun went to, where it was bought, where it was sold at. We can tell where it was sold at. We can tell who bought it. If it's through a legitimate gun dealer, we can tell who bought it. We can go to that person and say, where's your gun at? I lost it. When did you lose it? Why didn't you report it?
The ambassador suggested that cooperation had not been in place and may be the reason the issue has continued unabated for years. He says focus needs to be put on fishing boats that have been modified to travel at high speeds, as fishing is obviously not the operative's objective.
So these are some of the things that we have implemented here, and believe me, it's starting to work now. They've been working with the JCF. We have backtracked 4 or 5 weapons already.
He's also suggesting that boat registration be implemented locally to identify and track operators that may be transporting guns and other illicit goods. Prince Moore, TVJ News.
And we go down to news overseas. The opposition movement in Belarus is growing larger 1 week after a highly contested presidential election. On Sunday, a sea of protesters filled the capital, demanding that the country's longtime president steps down. We have more from the CNN.
Tens of thousands of people have turned out to this demonstration near the city center of Minsk, to a demonstration that was called for by the opposition in Belarus. They called for mass demonstrations on this day, and as you can see, many people followed that call. The crowds that we see here are very, very peaceful, and mostly their message is also very positive. They're calling for change. They want Alexander Lukashenko, the longtime dictator of this country, to step down, and they want new elections. Now, of course, at this point in time, it doesn't seem as though Lukashenko seems to want to do that. He called for a rally of his own where pro-government forces actually bust in people from other parts of the country to have a demonstration in the city center of Minsk. Lukashenko also made an appearance at that demonstration. He shows no signs of wanting to step down. He still says that he won the contested election last Sunday by getting about 80% of the vote. But as you can see, the masses who are coming out here say they do not 1 second believe that that is true. They believe the opposition are the ones who won the election, and they are calling for a new election, for Lukashenko to step down, and also for an end to police brutality.
And we go on to news in sports. The Toronto Raptors will begin the defense of their NBA title today when they take on the Brooklyn Nets in Game 1 of the first round of the playoffs in Orlando. The Raptors finished with the second best score in the Eastern Conference and go in as favorites, with the Nets missing several stars, including Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. The match will tip off at 3 p.m. Now, also in the Eastern Conference, the Boston Celtics will battle the Philadelphia 76ers at 5:30 p.m. Over in the Western Conference, preseason favorites Los Angeles Clippers take on the Dallas Mavericks at 8 p.m. Now, all playoff matches will be held at the ESPN Wide World of Sports complex inside Walt Disney World in Florida, Orlando. And that's where we wrap up the Midday News. I'm Herman Green. Join us at 7 for the Primetime Package. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, good afternoon.